Good morning or afternoon, members of the CFLPA. This is Scott from Vancouver, and welcome to this week's broadcast on the Academy. Today is a very, very cool day for us. Well, we're joined by Kevin Cochran, one of the co-founders of the Enriched Academy, and he's in quarantine somewhere in Uxbridge, aren't you, Kevin?
You got it, man. Stuck in the house like, everybody in the world at this point. So there you go.
Yeah, okay. And we're also grateful to have Solomon, your PA president, on with us. And Solomon's somewhere out west. I don't know if he's actually going to disclose his location to us.
Yeah, I'm in Surrey, Vancouver, and the weather's good, so that's a plus. Yeah, just hiding out here. So
Very cool. Well, thank you, gentlemen, both for making your time available for us today. 'Cause today's topic, I can't think of a more important topic. So for all of you who've joined us on this broadcast, there will be times to ask questions. On the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see a Zoom chat box. We're going to ask that if you keep yourself muted. And for anybody who's not muted, just to make sure that you've got the background noise as silent as possible, because we're recording this and we'd like it to be of good use to everybody else. So the chat box is the way to ask questions here for the moment. And so let's kick this off. Here we are. We're beginning May 2020, a place that we thought we would never be. And there's nothing that's more topical other than COVID is the financial implications for everybody going on. And for our members of the CFLPA right now, there's a very unique and unfortunate time happening right now, is that paychecks should be coming out. And right now we're looking, Solomon, right, at a delay of the season at least until September. Is that what I'm hearing so far?
yeah, we've been in discussions with the league, just started back up with the league. But the one thing that I just kind of highlight to guys is this COVID pandemic. Nobody knows when that's gonna end, when we're gonna get the answers, or health or safety restrictions when we do come back to play. So it's kind of a lot of uncertainty right now. And, that's why I think this topic about, financial literacy is very key and very timely, especially for our players.
Fair enough. And when we think about the scenarios we're planning for, we're all hoping for a September full-on season as long as we can get one going in. But we know that we have to plan for the things that we don't want sometimes. And that is what happens if the season doesn't exist. And from Kevin, your perspective as well, too, we're not just looking at financial planning for this year. We're looking at a longer-term horizon, aren't we?
Oh, no doubt about it, right? It's, this is not something that's going to be gone away in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This is going to be here for a very long time. And as Solomon kind of alluded to, what does it actually look like when things get back to normal, from flying to live events such as the CFLs, which draws in thousands upon thousands of, viewers every week in stadiums and arenas, stadiums across the country. So there's a lot of variables here that we're going to have to learn, right? But it's also not a time to panic. Realize you're not alone, because everybody in the entire world is in the same situation where there's nobody's that I know of anyways whose net worth hasn't taken a bit of a hit. There's not many people that I know that aren't worried about money. And I think that's really important for anybody that's listening right now. There is comfort, like misery likes numbers, and there is comfort in it a little bit, because, and I'm guilty of it as well. I'll look online and see my portfolio like, oh my gosh, it's dropped by this much. And you think you're the only person in the entire world whose portfolio's dropped, but you realize, millions, hundreds of millions right around the world are dealing with the same thing.
Absolutely. And as many of you know, I'm a professional speaker outside of this, and my calendar's just been wiped clean because nobody wants to see me for the rest of the year. So we're all pivoting in some sort of way here. So what good looks like, guys, today, we're going to be here somewhere between 40 minutes or an hour. And we want to talk about some of the challenges that everybody's facing. But more importantly, we want to talk about some of the things that we can do now to alleviate anxiety, to set an infrastructure going forward that helps you have more control over your finances. And Kevin's an expert in it. Solomon has been involved in the Enriched Academy and taken some of the programming there. So that's why these guys are here to do that. And throughout that, we'd love for you to have the chance to ask questions. Now, the cool thing about all of this is that the Enriched Academy is a partner with our academy, with the CFLPA. And through the hard work of Jason at the PA offices and others, we've developed a direct connection that you can go to the CFLPA website, and under the academy there will be an enriched button that you can just click and get access to all the great things that Kevin's going to be talking about. Is that fair enough, Kevin?
100%. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's working with the CFLPA has been extraordinary for the last, 3 or 4 years. I've worked with so many players, and the feedback is always 10 out of 10, which is amazing. And we're really excited about it because we think we're really filling a void in the market with regards to a part of the education that, we don't receive anywhere through our formal education.
Okay, so Kevin's been kind enough to prepare a bit of a slide deck to help keep our topic guided here. So I'm just going to go on forward with this a little bit. And just, Kevin, if I'll pass it over to you and you just tell me how to proceed.
Yeah, no problem. And again, thanks again for having me part of this presentation. Really excited about it. I actually had a really good conversation with Solomon this morning, and we were just talking about what is going on in the market right now. And it's interesting because I have a mentor of mine. He's 61 years old. He sells commercial real estate in the Markham area, and his name is David Black. And I remember I go to him for advice all the time because he's just got a little more, dirt under his nails. He's a little older, right? And he said to me once, he said, this was 3 or 4 years ago. He goes, Kevin, you have no idea what a recession is. He goes, nobody your age does. He goes, the last time there was a recession was really 1989. And he goes, a recession where you take a pay cut for, 30% for 2 or 3 years. And he goes, you guys haven't felt that pain. He goes, 2008 really wasn't that in Canada, especially. 2001, the same thing. He goes, but what we're experiencing here is exactly what he told me about. And what I'm really excited about this session, Scott, is that I know a lot of the players listening right now are probably in their 20s or early 30s, right? Or mid 30s. And this is a critical, what we're about to go through is so critical to understand because I want everybody watching. This isn't the last time we're going to go through a hit in the market like this, especially in your 20s and 30s. You're going to probably go through 3 or 4 more of these. So if you're struggling right now, cash flow wise, and you're freaking out a little bit, now's the time to make sure something like this never happens again where you have this panic or worry about it, right? And that's what we're here to do right now at Enriched Academy is to set up a strong foundation financially so that, if this comes around again in 10 years, which it probably will, statistics tell us it will, that you are in a much better position. So these are interesting stats right here. I know these are Canadian stats and a lot of people listening are American or from other parts of the world, but really it doesn't really matter where you are. At the end of the day, this is a pretty consistent message that we get no matter who do we speak to, that 2/3 of Canadians worry a lot about money, but 69% don't have a plan. And interesting enough, that's exactly why they worry, because they don't have a plan. And it's no different than a CFL player, a team going after another team in a game. If you don't have a plan, you're going to be a little more worried. If you don't know the strengths and the weaknesses of the other team, you're a little more worried. You're like, I don't know, what are we going to do, right? And one of the most interesting things when I talk to a lot of players, they're like, I'm worried about money. I go, okay, no worries. I go, what's your net worth? I ask them, what is your net worth within $5,000? If I ask what you're worth if you liquidate everything, your assets minus your liabilities, most people don't know what the number is. Like, I don't know. I go, okay, what number do you need in the bank to retire? Do you need $1 million? That's 6%. That's $60,000 a year. Is that good enough? They're like, I don't know. And I go, well, that's the craziest thing in the world, because if you take a look at a GPS works when it has 2 critical pieces of information. It needs to know where you are, and it needs to know where you want to go. And then when you put those 2 critical pieces of information in, guess what happens? It automatically gives you the quickest path to get where you want to go. And I don't know if anybody's ever driven anywhere and you have the GPS and it's telling you where to go, and then all of a sudden you lose connection, your battery dies out, and you're driving, and then you have instant panic. You're like, oh my gosh, is that the exit? I don't know. And that's how most people worry about money, because they had all this, they don't know, every check I get, is that enough? Is enough going away? Because they have no idea where they are, where they want to go. So putting a plan together, which is what Enriched Academy does, will help you do that here for sure. And that's why they worry a lot about money.
So just a quick question, Kevin, how do we get to be adults with not having this knowledge here? Is that the gap that Enriched tries to fill?
Yeah, 100%. It's a catastrophic failure in the education system, which, interesting enough, the education system is finally understanding that, and they're getting out of their own way, and they're actually coming to us now to use it. Number 2 is their parents didn't teach them. And the reason why most kids can't save money is because their parents can't. And, rich dad, poor dad, Robert Kiyosaki said it best, poverty is passed on. Yeah. Poverty is passed on.
And just to add to that, as a CFL player, my first 3 years, I was pretty much making around 45,000 Canadian, and then, the exchange rate, and, you can imagine it wasn't that much to kind of rely on. So I never had a problem saving. My problem was, what do I do with the money that I saved? And, back home, we call it, under the mattress money, you just stash it. But nobody kind of tells you, okay, here's what you need to be putting your money in. whether it's high interest rate savings, investment vehicles, whether it's property or stocks. Nobody kind of teaches you these things. So you kind of feel lost. And I remember 2013, the first time I got out of my rookie year deal, I kind of felt good about myself. Okay, I had some money saved up and I just signed, a much bigger contract for my rookie deal. And I bought some Jordans because I never had those things growing up. And I grew up kind of poor. And to this day, I laugh about it because in my storage are the same 4 pairs of Jordans that I probably wore once or twice, right? And it kind of just reminds me that, these things aren't helping you increase your wealth. Obviously, you're making money, but you got to know how to budget and how to save your money. But also, getting away from that self gratification. How do you build for the future? And that's one thing that I really enjoyed about Kevin's course in Enriched Academy, because it kind of teaches you on a basic level. A lot of us didn't grow up with these skills, and you kind of get flustered when you're talking about money because you never grew up having to deal with money. But Kevin breaks it down in a way where everybody can understand.
And money affects a lot of different aspects of your life, doesn't it, Kevin?
Oh, it absolutely does. It's not just your paychecks and so forth, but we see it all the time. It's tough to enjoy a great relationship with a spouse or a partner when you're going home worried about money and you can't enjoy life a little bit and relax a little bit. And unfortunately, as you can see here, 47% of divorces are caused by marriage. Right? I'm kidding.
by marriage.
Yeah,
by money. Yeah.
Caused by money stress. It's a stupid joke, but it is caused. And we see it all the time, right? And to speak to what Solomon said, I think a lot of people think financial literacy is just for people that are broke, and they're not. Even people with money, there's nothing more frustrating than you're saving money and then you finally you get out of debt, you start building your life and start giving it to somebody. You don't know what's going on. You have no idea what fees you're being charged on your mutual funds. It's really scary, right? Even people with money need it. Right.
Yeah. And I'm closer to that 60 range, that old guy that you were talking about before. And I've got friends who are still living paycheck to paycheck with nothing in the bank. And the thing that they want the most, guys, is to rewind time 30 or 35 years and start saving where, you're in your 20s and 30s. So what you have that guys my age don't have is time.
100%.
Yeah.
It's critical, right? And anyways, yeah, I agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I like this slide because I think that a lot of people don't really appreciate the fact that this is not just picking on the CFL players, or it doesn't really matter whether it's real estate agents, NBA players, Major League Baseball players, NFL players. You take a look at it, the stats show 6 out of 10 NBA players under financial distress, 78% of NFL players within tiers of retirement under financial distress. You look at, I believe the next slide is Major League, or yeah, anyways, it's not what you make, it's what you do with what you make. And these players make a lot of money. And the problem is, as most of you know, this is a short career and a long life. You guys tend to be fairly healthy. And so you live a long time and you have a very short window to earn the income that you are in this specific channel. And the problem is that when you don't really understand how it all works, it becomes very, very, very difficult, right? So yeah, it's really, really important to know that, which is why this slide indicates that. This makes me excited to talk about because, with COVID going on, there's no doubt some of the players are going to go into debt, and I get it. So just so you understand, you're not alone. Many are. But what I want people to understand, please do not go into high interest debt like credit card debt.
Yeah.
The average family in North America that's holding on to $9,500 worth of credit. The average family in North America that holds on to credit card debt is holding on to an average of $9,500 worth of debt. I want to show you why this is so bad, Scott and Solomon, is that this right here is my credit card statement from a few months ago. Okay, this statement indicates, if you can see it right there.
Yeah, good call. Yeah.
$8,000, right? So that's a Royal Bank Platinum Avion $8,000. What I wanted to show is that how long it takes to pay off this credit card if you only make the minimum payments, right? Because it actually tells you on your credit card statement. It would take, just so you can see, so 8,000 is the balance, so it's close to 9,500. It would take 78 years and 2 months at 19% to pay off this Royal Bank credit card, right? And that's why a lot of players I meet, they're like, oh man, I have $3,000 worth of credit card debt or $5,000. I've been making minimum payments for 3 years and I'm not getting ahead. It's designed that way. It's designed that way. And if you're going to get into debt coming out, do everything. Borrow money from a family, line of credit debt, avoid credit card debt, to come out of this. One thing to be in debt. It's another to be at 20% interest debt, because it's a problem.
So let's talk about credit cards for a second then. How many credit cards should somebody have?
I believe one. You know what? I've done fairly well in my life. I have one credit card for myself and one for my business, and that's it. And I wouldn't want the panic attack of having 3 different credit card statements coming in every month and making minimum payments or taking one to pay off the other. That makes no sense. I think you should have one.
Yeah. And what about the philosophy that unless you can pay it off at the end of the month, you probably shouldn't buy it?
100%. Like right now, I hope everybody listening right now understands, like, this is now more than ever. It's crunch time. If you're not cutting your spending by 50%, if you have something and you bought it a few months ago and you didn't open it, return it. Right? If you don't need it, don't buy it right now. This is, either 2 people can have your money, either you or somebody else. And right now is more than ever is time to have cash reserves, just to double check to make sure. So you can't afford it, in even good times, don't buy it. But especially now, it's crazy.
Yeah. How's that sit to sort of in the locker room kind of environment, Solomon? Any recommendations as far as credit card goes for the guys?
Well, one stat that was kind of interesting, and I think Kevin can speak more about it, is a threshold of not exceeding 35% of your, I guess, of the maximum on the credit card, as that affects your, affects your credit, right? So that's one thing I kind of, felt interesting. I thought it was interesting because, a lot of times for me, I have a 5,000 limit. And, when I go, let's say 4,000, I'm thinking I'm still fine, but don't really want to exceed 3,500. And if so, you might want to increase it, but obviously it's not a good time to increase it. Or if you struggle with, money management, you definitely don't want to increase it. You probably want to curtail your spending, but, just telling the young guys in the locker room, a lot of stuff you don't need to buy. And that's the thing that COVID is kind of teaching people, because really in the level of uncertainty, you don't know if we're going to receive a playoff check or receive a season check, because if we don't play football, then we don't, get paid. So just trying to reinforce that mentality to the guys that, start thinking of ways that you can kind of bring in income outside of your work, whether it's, training kids or just different things. Open up your mind, because as Kevin alluded to, it's a very short career, but we have a long life. So those are things you're trying to impart to the players, especially the younger guys.
I appreciate that, Solomon. One final thing on credit cards, Kevin. I always get, I'm sure you guys do too, your limit has been automatically increased. Please contact. What should we do with those kinds of things?
It all depends, right? Like, number one is that if you're paying off your credit card in full every month, then it's okay, right? At the end of the day, what Solomon was alluding to is that there's something called a utilization rate, and it stands at 35%. So if you have let's say a $10,000 credit card limit and you're holding onto a balance of over 3,500, let's say if your balance is around 4,000, and if you're not paying it off in full every month, that might have a negative impact on your credit rating. Like, so you want to make sure if you're paying it off in full every month, it's a non-issue. But if your balances are consistently over 35% of what your limit is, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are not, that you're staying under 35%. So that credit limit increase might help. But what a lot of players, as Solomon said, it's not a raise. Oh my gosh, I've got a $2,000 limit. Let's go on a trip, right? That's not what you meant to do. So you got to be really, really cautious with that for sure.
Yeah, I was always told that credit cards are the cocaine of credit. It's easy, but very hard to get out of, for sure.
Well, at 78 years, I was showing some students this recently, and I said, you're 19 years old. You'd be 100 by the time you pay this off.
Yeah. Fair enough then. So let's go over just, Kevin's already shown the amount of knowledge that he's got here. Just let's talk a little bit about Enriched Academy and what you guys can offer and where you came from.
Yeah, well, we're really excited about it. Like, anybody watching right now, just to be clear, like, being the co-founder of the company, I am by far, the smartest guy in the room. I'll tell you that. Within 2 years of finishing high school, I was over $20,000 in credit card debt myself. Bought my first car on a credit card. I joke around that my credit got so bad that someone stole my identity. My credit rating got better, right? Like, that's how bad I was.
I like that.
Yeah. And, in high school, I wasn't the smartest student in the class. Like, I was sitting around a 53% average out of school, didn't go to college, university. And, unfortunately, just like anybody, went out and started making money and got into a lot of debt and wanted to buy all the things I couldn't in high school. And, luckily enough, was able to start understanding how money works, and was really able to see a void in the market that we're not really taught about money. And we've had success after success building Enriched Academy, working, right away. Within the first year, we ended up doing a deal on Dragon's Den, which is pretty amazing because that just validates that the message is good, because they really do, really tear your company apart to see if the message makes sense or not. We don't sell any financial products, as many of you guys know. We originally built the company to sell our program to kids. Parents would buy our DVD kit, which you see on the left-hand side there, for $200 to teach your kids about money. Did really well. We sold over 20,000 units of that. And yeah, you can go to the next slide. And it's been a really, really great experience. We signed a deal with two of the Dragons, Jim Treliving and Bruce Croxton. So Jim Treliving, if you've ever been to a Boston Pizza, he's the founder. And he's just got a really, really good story as well. And yeah, it's been amazing. Again, we're actually the number one deal he's ever done on the show, which is pretty exciting. Got to spend a couple days with Jim and his house in Palm Springs. That's my business partner, Jay. So it's been a really, really great experience. We actually we've been working very closely with the OHL recently, the Ontario Hockey League. They're loving what we're doing. Police unions, like every police officer in BC has to watch a portion of our program every year through their SWAT training, and that's been amazing. We actually have our first province that looks like they're going to be moving ahead with some of our education as well. And I think we really hit a sore spot in the market, right? Because most financial literacy that exists in the market usually comes from a financial institution. There's nothing wrong with that, but usually they're trying to give you education to buy this mutual fund or ETF or credit card. We're not taking you down a path to buy any financial product of ours. We don't do that. The way I look at it, we're like the Rosetta Stone of money, right? And like money's a language. Like this right here, that's credit card question I just gave most people. I'll ask an audience, how long do you think it would take to pay off? You hear 3 months, 6 years, 5 years. That's not understanding the language, right? And when you don't get a language, it's like being in another country. If you don't get how money works, you're in trouble. And just so you know, it's been designed for people not to understand how it works. So, yeah.
Okay. So you've got some tips and suggestions we're going to work through with the guys here. And guys, just a reminder, as you're on here in the chat box, any questions that you have for Kevin or for Solomon, just for anyone in general, just feel free to put them out there. But why don't we lead into this slide here, Kevin?
Yeah, you know what? What we'll do, we've kind of gone through a few of the financial successes already, but if you go to the next slide, I want people to understand is that how wealth really does work. And, as I said, for any player right now, I get you're in your 20s and 30s, and just to be clear, that a crash like this is going to happen again. If you live till you're 80 and you're 30, you're probably going to go through 3 or 4 more of these, guaranteed. That is just the way life works. Look at the cycle. 2008, nothing. Oh my gosh, 2008, nothing like this has ever happened. The banks are running out of money. Because every time something like 2001, holy cow, like planes crashing into buildings, nothing like this has ever happened. And here we are again. Oh my gosh, the world is shut down. Nothing like this has ever happened. And stress is like a muscle. Like if you've never been exposed to a certain amount of something, you're like, I don't know how to I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody knows, right? So what we need to do is make sure that we prepare ourselves so that the next time something like this happens, which is going to happen, that you position yourself in the best possible position where you're like, you know what? Yeah, markets are down. I'm not too really worried about it. Like how do I benefit? How do I capitalize on this, right? So that's a good offense. But right now we'll talk mostly about defense. So if you go to the next slide, if you really want to build wealth, you got to master 2 skills. You got to learn how to make money. And the problem here, Scott, and Solomon knows about that. I've had many conversations. As CFL players, and it doesn't really matter in most, all we do our whole life is we learn how to make money. That's why you go to school. They give you education. Then all you do is you're out there lifting weights and doing drills and throwing balls and catching balls and tackling. You're learning. You're developing your skill because you want to get paid. So you're trying to learn how to make money. You're trying to be the best football player you ever can. So you're putting thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours learning how to make money in football. The problem is we don't spend any time learning how to manage it. And if you look at it, you go, that's a colossal failure. And because you need to master both. And they're both equally important. If you go to the next slide, this is probably the most important lesson I'm going to teach anybody here today is this, is that, I'll meet people making $90,000 a year, even in the CFL, like maybe not 90, but I'm giving an example, and go to the next, press the button again. I've met players making $100,000 a year that have a higher net worth than players making $250 a year all the time. It's amazing. We think that what you make equates your net worth. What you make is not your net worth. That is everything people need to know about money, is what you do with what you make, right? That is it. Like, $90,000. I'll give you a perfect example. $90,000 right here. You're looking at that. I've met people making $90,000 a year though, and they're freaking out. Like, yeah, I'm freaking out. $90,000, not cutting it. What am I going to do? I go, what would solve your problem? Guess what? They always think the only answer is make more money. Oh man, if I could make $250, that would solve everything. I go, well, nothing can be further away from the truth. And this is the best analogy, Scott, that I can give. Imagine you go to the gym, right? That's how I go to the gym. It's not effective, but blow ever. But imagine you go to the gym and I ask you to lift 90 pounds and you can't. You're like, I can't lift 90 pounds. Well, if you can't lift 90 pounds, do you think you could lift 250? And most people are like, no, of course I can't. Well, if you can't manage 90,000, you can't manage 250,000. And I'm telling you right now, like if people think that more money is the solution, more money is actually more weight. You can hurt yourself more. You can end up in a worse position. And I'm living proof of it. Like, you know, I had a company a few years ago. People have asked in my career how I've always been able to take chances and risks and start brand new companies. And because I've learned to live within my means after high school. After I was in that debt, I never wanted to get back in there ever again. And I had a company that sold a few years ago for over $120 million. There's 4 of us that owned it. And it was a life-changing day. Like, you get a check for millions of dollars. And people go to me all the time, what did you do with that money, man? Yeah. What kind of house do you live in? I live in the same house today that I bought in Uxbridge, Ontario 12 years ago for $450,000. Well, what kind of car though? I drive a 2010 Ford F-150 pickup with 210,000 kilometers on it. And people go, well, that's not the way to live, man. I want to live. I go, man, I go on vacations all the time that are ridiculous. But if you've ever watched the movie, So This Is 40, one of my favorite movies ever. In the movie, a gentleman says, the secret to life financially is to have a small overhead. So those great vacations, first class tickets I go on, those concerts I go first row, that's thousands of bucks, I can pull that back anytime. Like right now, it's full pullback mode. And if you looked at my overhead right now with 3 kids and everything, I'm about $3,000 a month. It's not fun if I had to go there, but that's the secret. And the problem is people's overhead are ridiculous and they sustain a high overhead. So
yeah, to that point, Kevin, I did a study on the number of folks who won the grand lottery, you know, prizes of $5 million or more. And within 5 to 7 years, those folks are exactly back where they were before, if not in a worse situation.
100%. Imagine I won the lottery to go play in the CFL the first game. Like, you know, hey, you won the lottery. Good. Like I get the snot kicked out of me, right? Because I don't deserve to be there. And people that win $5 million don't deserve it. And they don't know what to do. And they get the snot kicked out of them.
Yeah. Fair enough then. Cool. Okay.
This is, again, really the secret to wealth. And if you ask me, is that most people's income streams look the reason why most people, Scott, worry about money is this. Is that their whole life is an exchange of time for money. The more time I work, the more money I make. The more hours I work, the more money I make. But as soon as we stop working, we stop making money. And Warren Buffett said it best. He said, if you don't learn how to make money while you sleep, you'll work to the day you die. And he's right. So making money while you're asleep, what does that look like? Okay, that dividend paying stocks. You buy a bank stock, they pay you 5% dividend as an example. Owning investment properties. That's like, hey, you know what? They're paying my mortgage down. I get checks every month. That is making money while you sleep. There's no get rich quick here. It takes time to build this type of wealth. This is ultimately what your income stream should look like. You see the white line? That represents the money you earn. But the time, the yellow line, that's the time you work. Like the older you get, you should have the opportunity to start slowing down, but it won't affect your income stream because it continues to grow because your assets are still making money. You're paying off the debt on your investment property. You're making better margins. And this right here is what everybody should strive to do. It takes time and there's no get rich and stop. Like the problem is we see people online and social media, some 23-year-old getting out of a helicopter and we're like, that's real. That's real. And why am I not there? Because it's fake. They've rented that stuff half the time, right? And just to sell you something, to sell, I'm not doing that. We're not doing that in Enriched. The CFLPA is not telling you that it is real wealth. It takes time to do it, but this is what you should strive to do right here. So that when the markets slow down, what's going on right now, you're like, oh, no big deal. I still have paychecks coming in for my investment properties. My dividends are still paying on my investments that I own. I still have income coming in. It's not completely reliant on me going somewhere, making money, coming back.
Yeah. And that's an incredible feeling too, when you wake up in the morning and there's money in your PayPal account or whatever you're going to. It's an addictive feeling, isn't it?
Completely. You're like, how do I do more of it? Like it's never enough. And as I said, because you become really good at it because you understand like how to, like right now I'm sitting there, I got equity. And again, not saying this is what people should do. This works for me. I'm borrowing money on my own home at 3% right now. I'm like, okay, I borrowed money on my own home on 3%. stocks are 50 to 60% off. Like, holy cow, that's amazing. So for every $100,000 I borrow, it's cost me $3,000 a year. I can buy stocks that are 50% off right now in a year or two, not a month or two. In a year or two, if they rebound by 25%, I'm going to make, you know, a $25,000 that cost me $3,000 to borrow. That's pretty amazing. Like, where else can you do that? That's not me going to work trying to, how do I work 5 extra hours to make an extra 5,000 a year? I go, how do I get my money to work for me and go out to work for me and not me? That's the best thing in the world. But that's understanding money and how it works and the language of it, right? And
that's what the Enriched Academy does too. When the players get into your programs, so if something, guys, isn't being totally understood right now, I know Kevin and his team, there's a great explanation through their courses.
It's we take something that's complicated, and again, we're not taking you down a path to sell you line of credits. We're just saying, this is how it works. If it works for you, it works for me right now. It may not work for you, but doing stuff like that it's a good idea. Like, holy cow! Like, to me, I'm not scared. I'm like, oh my God, how do you capitalize? Like, this is like, oh my gosh! It's like people are freaking about toilet paper. I'm freaking about stocks. I'm like, look at this! Yay! Right? Yeah. This is great. So. And just to be clear, anyway, just to be clear, last thing on it is that I'm 43 right now. This is the first time ever in my life I've been able to capitalize on a down market. 2008, grew a mortgage company, right? Think about that. That's when we started in 2008 in a housing crash or a mortgage crash, right? So it took me, 2 decades to be able to capitalize and be able to do stuff like this. So if you're in your 30s going, I can't do it, don't worry about it. But set yourself in your 30s so that in 40s, when this happens again, you're ready to go.
Fair enough. Good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about debt.
Well, there's good debt and there's bad debt, right? Good debt grows in value. Like, you buy a mortgage or you get a house that's a mortgage or an investment property. When you buy that, the property goes up, and that's good debt. Buying books and student loans tend to be good debt. Bad debt depreciate, right? And Scott, I'm going to ask you the most simple question in the world. I know you're going to know the answer to this, but if I told you right now, after we're done this call, I want you to buy a stock that I know about. It's $100 a share. I guarantee you, as soon as you buy it, it's going to drop by 30%. It's never going to go up again. In fact, it's going to continually drop. You probably wouldn't buy that stock, right? Mm. Right. Well, go to the next slide. That's buying a brand new car. Like, 86% of millionaires don't drive brand new cars. Millionaires are ninjas. I'm telling you, what we think a millionaire is versus what one is. And a millionaire usually don't live in the biggest homes or drive the fanciest cars, right? And that's why Robert Kiyosaki said poor people stay poor by buying. I can't remember what it is. I've got so many quotes, but anyway, a car's always losing value, but that first year is everything, right?
Yeah, it is. And I remember the founder of IKEA, and he was the fifth richest man in the world at one point. He still flew coach on the airplanes. He could have had his own private jets, but to your point, he kept his fixed expenses down.
Well, it's everything, right? And this is it. Poor people stay poor because they act like they're rich. Rich people stay rich because they act like they're poor, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? And you'll see the poor like driving anyway, go to the next slide. I'll show you. Like, you can buy a brand new car for $27,738. There's a brand new Ford Focus. You can buy it right now. You go to the next slide. You can buy it 1 year old, and it's literally a third off. And this is in London, Ontario. It's 10,000 kilometers. It's 8. And people go like, how many people right now, and Solomon, I'm sure you can appreciate how many players, I know I've been working with every different league, bought something in January that they probably wish they didn't buy right now, right? And they're going, oh man, if I just would have kept that car, $800 a month. Like, it's the same thing with my pickup truck. People say, why don't buy a brand new car? I got 3 kids. My car smells like vomit and goldfish crackers all the time. It smells like, when you walk into a car and it just smells like kids have been in it. That's my car. It doesn't matter how nice. I don't need a new car smelling. And I was to pay that truck off. It took me 4 or 5 years at $700 a month, going towards a depreciating asset. Now it's paid off, and for the last 3 or 4 years, now that $745 I was putting into it goes into value, things that go up in value. And whatever brand new car, and I can't emphasize this enough to anybody listening that's ever thought about it, whatever brand new car you buy right now will feel like the exact same car you're driving right now 3 months from now.
Yeah,
right? It'll feel the exact same.
Yeah.
And it's like, we'll pay off a car, which is the greatest thing in the world. We're like, oh my God, finally paid off, no payments. And then a few months later, we're like, oh, we need new tires. Well, how much is that? $1,000 for a new tire. Well, let's get a new car, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. Keeping your car, you should keep a car for 10 years.
Yeah. I'm at 15 now, and someone told me a while ago that new is not ninja, to use one of your words. Like, don't buy new. That is where you get taken the most often on everything that you buy.
100%. Like right now, like we were talking about biking, you know, what I'm doing on the weekend with my son biking. And I have a Canadian Tire 5-year-old bike that's $200. I need a new bike. And I want something to last a little better. And I brand new, the one I was looking at was 3,000, just found it used for $950, right? 2 years old. I'm like, I'll buy that. Like why wouldn't I? I don't care. Right. And so avoid buying new whenever you can. That's all, especially.
Okay. Good call. Solomon, just before we drive in there, is there anything there that you want to add to, or did it get covered fairly well?
No, I think Kevin sums up pretty well. You know, just as you guys well know, you know, professional athletes, just people in general, they like to buy new cars, and just because you have the money to buy it doesn't mean it's a good idea. And, you know, over the years, you know, these are things that I'm tempted to do because, you know, peer pressure affects people. You know, when you're you know, working guys that have new cars and you can afford it, you know, you want to get a new car, you want to get, you know, new things, but then you have to really think about the long-term goal. And that's one thing Enriched Academy kind of teaches you how to set goals, but also have to, you know, how to budget, because it's really a long-term play where when you're 45, 50, you know, Kevin's age, you know, early 40s, you can kind of sit back and kind of relax and have your money working for you rather than, you know, still working. So that's the hardest thing that I realize is really just trying to let guys understand, look, you don't got to floss for nobody. It's all about the long-term, you know, plan, because at the end of the day, you know, when you're 40 and 50, you kind of want to be sitting back and relaxing, right?
You do, or the option to, right? And here's what I will tell you, and Solomon, I know that we've had many conversations about this in the past, and because you've been to the events and you know I say this, is that there is no car, there is no trip, there is no restaurant, there is no home that feels better than waking up in the morning and not worrying about money. It like, I call them fireworks. You go to buy a car, boom, and then it sizzles off of it, right? You know, a restaurant, boom, $300 bill, then it sizzles away, right? Waking up and not worrying about money is the best. It is the best feeling in the world. But I'm telling you, it's not mass. It doesn't mean you're driving the Porsches or living in mansions. It is living a sustainable lifestyle. And it's the best thing in the world, man. It's just, and if you are in debt right now, I think you have to go through it. I've been through it because you appreciate this side of the fence as well, much more, right?
So, Kevin, maybe you're going to talk about it a little bit, so feel free to defer this question, but you talked about sort of that fixed monthly budget that everybody should whittle down to about 50%. Is this a good time to talk about it, or do you want to delay that for a little bit?
No, we can talk about it right now. Like, you know, you should be cutting everything down as much as possible. You can't really do anything. I live in Ontario, and like I hear BC is a little more open than we are. Like, Canadian Tires are closed here, and you can do curbside pickup, but that's it. And so, you know, what I mean by overhead, like, you know, the two biggest mistakes I see people make is their monthly rent or mortgage payment and car payments. And because you know, you can pinch pennies or you can pinch hundreds. Those hundreds are critical, right? And like Solomon said, like I get tempted. I'm as human as everybody else. The last 3 summers, I rent a cottage up north, and every time I come back, I'm on MLS looking for a cottage to buy. And boy, am I glad I never did. And, you know, I'm human too. But, you know, you got to keep your expenses as low as you possibly can. And now, like, and again, as I said, the car payment is, you know, the problem is once you pay off a car, keep that car for 5 years more. You said you're at 15, Scott, if I understood that correctly. It's great not to, and I'm telling you, the amount of events that I have where somebody will come up to me during the break and like, hey, look at this. And they'll show me their picture of their car. 2001 Lincoln Continental, piece of crap, 300,000 kilometers. I'm worth millions, right? And and you would never know driving up, but then you'll see somebody in a BMW 7 Series and you're like, wow, and you think that's successful. But you tear down, if you tear them down, they're the ones that join our coaching, and you're like, not all people drive BMW 7 Series, but a lot of them are. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, man, if you don't make money next month, you can't pay your bills. It's a bad thing, right? So yeah.
Very cool. Anything more on this slide? Or should we go to the next one?
Go to the next one. So
okay.
Yeah, this is probably the essence of, Scott, what you and I and Solomon are trying to do here is that they say your formal education earns you a living. That's what you learn in high school and and college, university, or trade school, your formal education, nobody's forcing you to do this right now. This is upon you. This is your self-education. This right here, you have to do it on your own, but this will make you a fortune. And people say learn from your mistakes. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. Why would I learn from my mistakes when I can learn from somebody else's? Like, it is so cheap to do. Like this right here, this is just my one bookshelf. You can see it. It's all the way down. That's just books on money alone, right? And like understanding wealth, investment properties, flipping properties. I don't do all of it, but I know I have a pretty good idea, because these are people, like, think about this. I can take 20 years of somebody's life experience and read it in 3 hours. 20 years of their failures, successes. This is what I did. This is what I didn't do. This is where I made a mistake. Those are the answers to the test right there. I can just read it. And the amount of time it takes to learn how to make money versus the time how to manage it, it's nowhere close. It takes way longer to learn how to make money than manage it. Like, managing it takes 1/10 of the time. Right? Like, you can read all those books if you want to, probably in about 6 months if you really dedicated yourself. And, it took me 20 years to learn how to make the money that I make. So my whole point, if you go to the next slide, I love this quote, is invest as much of yourself as you can. You're your own biggest asset by far. Warren Buffett said that. And people ask me all the time, would you buy cannabis stock or Bitcoin or this or that? And I ultimately, nobody knows. Like, really, nobody knows. If anybody, I know, nobody knows.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah, like every day I get all these market updates, and markets crash 300%. Why the market shouldn't crash 300? And so because nobody knows. But the one thing that is guaranteed, there's nothing that grows in value as much as your mind. Like, it is the most appreciating asset thing you own, and as long as you continue to put new information into it, you'll be great. But the problem is we just spent no time doing it. And this is what the Enriched Academy is all about. And this is why we partnered with the CFLPA Academy. And this is a really unbelievable, we've had people broke. We've had people worth over $100 million come to our program. And they're like, this is life-changing, man. Like, life.
Very good.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at that program. How about, Kevin, I unshare my screen here. And are you ready to pop us into what the Enriched Academy is?
Okay. Let me just pop into it right now. Okay, give me 1 second here.
No problem.
I just got to find this.
And Solomon, if you can, if you want to, your involvement with Enriched Academy, if there's one or two takeaways that you think the players should be thinking about, what would you offer to them?
Yeah, well, it's funny you said that. I think, Kevin, you did a course in Vancouver where you actually filmed the courses, I want to say in 2016. So I was actually able to come to that. And I think the biggest takeaway is just understanding where your money is going. Budgeting. It's a big thing. And that's something that I've actually had to redo again and, really look at my liabilities and see how I can bring those things down. But I think budgeting, and that's going through your credit card statements, all your transactions, and really understand where you spend your money. And for me, it was kind of surprising because I thought, I'm a good saver, but I was spending, more money than I should have on eating out.
Yes.
It's, just time, right? As an athlete, you work out, you're so busy. And you want to go grab something healthy, but you're eating out instead of, buying groceries and cooking. And that's how I was able to kind of say, okay, here's how I'll save a little bit more by really understanding the psychology of why I do the things I do. And, just taking time every month to go through your budgeting and seeing what you're spending. And, I guess Dave Ramsey said, every dollar is like a child. You got to know where it's going, right? Where it's at. So
yeah,
it's important.
Good stuff.
I couldn't agree with you more. No, Solomon, you said it 100%. And that event that you went to in Vancouver had a couple hundred people in the room, and that's the program that we filmed. So everybody's going to get access to this. And I know, Scott, you'll walk them through how to do that, but it's, again, the CFLPA right here. And you'll have your name here. Just to be clear, nobody's collecting any data on you. We have no access to any of this information whatsoever, but this is a really amazing tool. So you're going to have a course list right here. And this is the live event, Solomon, that you went to, which is amazing. Yeah. So we filmed it. So all these courses, money myths, understanding credit, where are you today? That's the budgeting section, right? Stock markets for beginners, advanced, TFSAs, RSPs, investment property, retirement planning, how financial advisors get paid, private lending, leveraging equity, career mastery. It's everything. And so this isn't a bunch of PDFs that you're downloading. This is actually, I'll just click this right here so you can see it. This right here, you're watching our live program, our live event, and it's broken down. It's about 6-7 hours worth of curriculum. What you can do in a day, like this is it right here. We have all these people in the program, and we just talk about everything about money, from budgeting to being in debt. And so we've got about 30 different interviews in the program, which is amazing. We've got we've got 30 different interviews, and we're always adding into it professionals, mortgage professionals, investment property, real estate agents, and so forth. So you can go through this program at your own pace. The best part of it is you can download the workbook, and it's a PDF. So as you download the workbook, which is right here, as soon as you download the workbook, it's about 395 pages right here that you can go through and fill in the blanks while you're going through the program. So this is an amazing, amazing tool that you fill in the blanks as you go. So you can do investment properties as an example, and while you're watching the investment property section, you can type in the answers to what we're talking about, which is great. Then what happens is that I love this. This is one of the most used tools that we have in the system, and this is called our debt crusher. So if you're sitting in debt right now, what this program will do will teach you how and when you'll be out of debt. So let me just move this box over here so I can do it. So again, we have no access to any of this information, neither do you as at the CFLPA. This is strictly for each person. So let's just say if you have a credit card and it's at, we'll call it credit card, and your debt right now is sitting at $7,000 and your interest rate's at 19%. It'll tell you your minimum payment is $140. So you can add that debt. Then you have a car. Well, you know what? I have a Camaro. We'll call it a Camaro. And it is a car loan. And what's that debt? We'll say $25,000 at 7%. And it's a 60-month term, and it starts today. So add that debt. $495 is your payment. So you can add all your debt in here and press understand debt. And when you do that, it'll actually tell you what your total debt is, which is $61,000 a year, what your interest is, what your monthly payment, and when you'll be debt free, which is April 2081. And obviously that's 61 years. And why is it that long? Because that credit card, right? And obviously at this point, we would have already talked about credit card or budgeting, as Solomon alluded to. So at this point, you're going to know if you have any disposable income. So what you can do is this breaks down all your debt. So I have debt at $7,000. That's your credit card, $140. So let's say if you figure after you do your budget, you have $300 disposable income every month. You can figure out where it's best to put, clearly your credit card. So by putting an extra $300 a month, you've saved 709 months worth of payments, $23,000 in interest. And now your new debt-free date is in 5 years versus 60 years. So it actually builds a plan for you to figure out, okay, if I have a little extra money, where should I put it? How does that affect my debt the most? And how do I prioritize it? So this is an incredible tool that, I mean, we get just an insane amount of traction. What Solomon brought up as well, I'll go back to the dashboard here, and all the tools. So we have amazing tools. We have a full section on budgeting, and we have our budget tool here. So phone bill reduction script. I didn't even see this. This is wicked. Because you know what? A lot of the time you call your supplier, Bell or Rogers Telus, and say, listen, I want a better rate. I'm going to go across the street. They'll reduce your bill, and that's forever, right? You look at calculators and tools. This is the budget worksheet. So you can download this. Again, nobody has any access to this information because, again, it's an Excel sheet. And you open it up, and you can download this to your computer. And right here, you can talk about your fixed expenses. And let me just tighten this up a little bit in here. There we go. And what's your current income? You can type in your current income. And as you type in all this information, I'm going to enable editing. Yeah, you can type in all this information. As you do, what it'll do, it'll actually start figuring out what your payments are. So, you know, as you figure it out, it'll tell you a summary of your expenses, your reductions, and so forth. It's a pretty amazing tool, man. Like, so all this stuff, if just to be clear, Scott and Solomon, which I know, if you bought this as an individual, we sell thousands of these every month online through Facebook and Instagram, it's $600. Every player gets unfeathered access to this forever. It's a lifetime subscription as soon as you log in, which is pretty amazing. So again, yeah. So there you go. So endless tools, workbooks, videos, all here. Take the 7 hours to go through it. 7 hours for the rest of your life. It's a no-brainer.
Got to imagine the ROI on that is pretty darn high.
Well, Solomon, I know you've seen firsthand. It's been spectacular for you. We've had tons of other players. It's life-changing, right?
No, it definitely is. And, the value you guys bring to, not just the CFL players, but, to people that actually take this serious, it's unbelievable. And, I've called you personally just for advice. And, you worked, with me through different things that, that I had questions on and kind of showed me different ways of thinking. And it's kind of like, a rabbit hole. The more you learn, the more you want to learn, and you realize that the more you don't know. So it's kind of fun. It's creative. And, I tell anybody, if you take this serious, there's no way you'll end up being in debt. And, you'll actually start thriving because you'll start understanding money in the way it's meant to, be understood by those who are wealthy. So, once again, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a long process, but if you do it right, it's actually a fun process.
No, and I'm actually partial way through it myself. And I guys have taught finances at a post-secondary level, and I'm learning stuff left, right, and center. So it's a very cool thing. Jason, if you're still with us, I'm going to unmute you now. Do you have the ability now, if you could unshare the screen there, Kevin, Jason, just to tell the players how they could access this?
So I'm going to press stop share.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. There we go. There he is.
You see me there?
Welcome on board, Jason. Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to load the CFLPA website here. And then I'll share that screen. Because essentially what we've now opened up for all players is using CFLPA.com, and all players should have access. And if you don't have access, please contact us, admin@CFLPA.com or academy@CFLPA.com at this point. But all players should have access to our website, which is the same website that we used for player salary information, et cetera. But now, right from the website, once logged in, if you go to COVID-19, you can go to the Academy portion of that. And what you'll see is a button here. And what that does is seamlessly takes you right into the exact portal that Kevin was then talking about. So you start now, and everything that he alluded to is at your fingertips. And you can do that from your mobile devices or from a browser.
That's great. So guys, as you're listening to this, whether it's live today or you're listening to recording, we're going to finish in about 3 or 4 minutes when we're all said and done here. Go do that right now. Just get on that and begin that journey. I imagine, Kevin, you don't have to invest the 7 hours all at once, but it's just those first steps, isn't it, to get it going?
It's 100% just those first few steps. And again, it's funny because people watch it, they go, you don't seem that smart. We're not. Like, we're not trying to talk to you like a banker or somebody with a 10-year degree at Harvard. We're just trying to talk to you as a human being about money in a way that you get it. And as I said, the 7 hours that you put into this over the next week or two, whatever you need to, versus the thousands of hours that you put into becoming a professional football player, like this is nothing. Right.
Yeah, so. Fair enough. And just as we wrap up, Solomon, any sort of final words of advice for the guys who are listening?
No, I just, definitely want to thank Kevin, for all the work he's done with the Enriched Academy, and, how much, he's brought, to me and, my quest to, be better off financially. As I said before, I didn't have this education growing up. I didn't grow up that much. I grew up in the inner city, didn't know much about money. And like I said, it was under the mattress money. You make money and, one thing, okay, let me just stuff underneath the mattress, but not knowing how to make that money grow, which is investing. So I want to thank Kevin for all he's done. And I want to thank you, Scott and Jason. These tools that you guys are providing to the players, obviously Enriched Academy is one of them, is one of my favorites, but just the amount of, information on the website and tools to help guys, navigate through this uncertainty, man, it's really, really important. So I really want to thank you guys for your hard work.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Solomon, taking time out of the day to do that. Your input has been great because you've walked the walk here. Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you and meet with you on this one. And I think this is just the first of several interactions we'll have along the way. Right back at you. And if any player ever has any questions or anything like that, they can contact me directly, get my number through Solomon, and happy to answer any questions that you guys need. And as I said, if I don't know the answer, sometimes I don't, I'll find it for you. Yeah. And finally, Jason, a huge thank you to Jason, because he's worked tirelessly to get the connection right to the PA website, just to make this a one-click kind of thing, which is exactly what we want. We don't want more obstacles in the way. So with that in mind, guys, thank you all very much for your time. Much appreciated. Stay safe, stay happy, and we'll hope to meet you all in person soon.
Thanks, guys.
Definitely.
Thanks,
Stay
everybody.
safe. Thanks for everybody.